Hey, this is Russ Miller, and I'm on Musicians on the Record, so let's hit it.
One, two, three, four. This is huge, musicians on the record. Bring it on.
For you, Russ, anything come to mind? Top two or three, whether live or studio gigs that come up for you thinking about that?
You look at something like the Pro Bowl halftime or something like that, where you just kind of look around and go, "How the heck did I get here?"
Yeah, right.
How did I do this?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, there's definitely those moments. There's been a lot of moments, playing with artists. I mean, I remember playing Unforgettable with Natalie Cole with the video of her father and, him singing his part, and you're going,
Yeah.
me, I'm playing brushes with, Nat King Cole's voice, this thing.
Wow.
Or Al Jarreau. I loved Al's music, and to play Take Five with Al Jarreau. Or,
Wow, yeah.
Things that I listened to Gad do.
Yes.
And things like that. Or, the first time that you, maybe the first Nelly Furtado record that I did with I'm Like a Bird and Turn Off the Light and all. They were such big hits.
Yes, yeah.
That, you would be at Home Depot and I'm Like a Bird's playing, or you're sitting in Taco Bell and I'm Like a Bird's playing.
You're right.
Those were the first, like, I'd played on a lot of records before that, but those were the first songs that were so huge that you couldn't escape them.
Right.
If I didn't want to hear it, I couldn't escape them because they were everywhere.
Yeah.
So I mean that was an interesting thing. There's a certain feeling when you're sitting in a restaurant and the whole restaurant is hearing this music and it's you playing. Nobody knows it.
Must be amazing.
And you're just sitting there going, "This is wild." Like, I don't know. It's there's just little moments like that, I think, that are
absolutely. On the flip side of the coin, can I ask you what's an experience that was the most maybe challenging or difficult for you, and what did you learn from it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of those, of course. A lot of the older artists, when I first moved to LA, I made a living. I wasn't doing a lot of records yet, of course. I just moved here. So I started by doing a lot of casual gigs and weddings and bars and stuff. And then I got a gig with the Fifth Dimension.
Wow.
And so I started to tour with the Fifth Dimension. And, of course, they were much older at the time.
Sure.
It's all casinos and whatnot.
Right.
And there was other eras, artists from those eras like Frankie Valli or the Platters or whatever, that I would do those kind of gigs. And over the years I've done a lot of those, from the disco things like Gloria Gaynor and Cheryl Lynn to Bobby Caldwell and Benson and Joe, or those kind of guys. But there's a moment where you realize, like, they have little to no concern for you doing anything but playing that song great, and just shut up. We don't want to hear a fancy drum fill.
Right.
We don't want to hear the new splash cymbal that you bought 25 times. We don't.
Right.
We just want to hear the part to One Less Bell or Age of Aquarius, and that's all. And those are all great Hal Blaine parts.
Yes, right, exactly. Yeah.
I told him that one time. I go, Hal, I'm wearing out your parts, man. I've been playing them because he played on so much stuff. So I would go play with the Fifth Dimension, or I would go cover like the Beach Boys thing, anything. Right. He played on all this stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, but there was a big lesson in knowing your place, and again, in Modern Drummer, I wrote another article about knowing who you're supposed to be at the gig tonight.
Yeah.
Are you the drummer? Are you the drummer in the band?
Right.
With your boys, your friends?
Yeah.
Are you the featured side guy because, hey man, you're a big deal and you're here.
Right.
So are you the artist themselves and everyone's here to see you?
Right.
Like, what's going on? And there's moments where you have to figure out what you're supposed to be tonight.
Right.
And deliver that in its best form.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that you're not any of the other stuff. If you're the artist, you're responsible for the show. I got to keep everybody entertained.
That's right.
I got to make sure that everybody has a great time. I want to make sure that everybody, got their money's worth and got more than what's expected.
Right.
If I'm just the drummer on the gig, I need to shut up.
Right.
I need to just play the stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
Stay out of the way.
Yeah.
And, don't be the guy that, hogs the sound check, and don't be the guy that plays too loud. And,
yeah.
All those things that come along with that,
Right. Right.
So those are big lessons. But I would say, those older bands in those eras, like Ray or the Fifth Dimension or those kind of things, they were big lessons, big learning lessons for me. And just being able to play the no BS thing, execute, and just know your place and do it.
Absolutely.
And that's hard to do when you first
Sure.
get in those situations. It's hard to do, and but it's great learning experiences. And what happens is I always start at those places and then move out. Even now, where I go, let me figure out who I am in this thing.
Right.
But I'm always going to start with the just shut up and play mode.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, meaning if I'm in a session, do I say, hey man, let's try this, or don't say that. Or,
right. Exactly. Right.
Does anybody realize that the artist is singing flat right now?
Right.
Don't say things like that if you're
That's
not.
Right. That's right. You got to know the gig, right?
Exactly.
Can you say a little bit about practicing? What's your process? What are you even practicing, working on now?
Yeah, I mean, practicing is always a combination of what I call short-term goals and long-term goals. So a short-term goal is I just got to learn something for the shows that are coming up, and that's pretty self-explanatory.
Mm-hmm.
Long-term goals are things that are crucial and important to you as a musician, as a player, that are going to require a lot of effort and a long-term approach, and that can be anything from, learning brushes to playing time to getting a good feel to, developing facility to learning different music styles. I mean, whatever it is, but there's things that you have to continually have an organized palette of long-term goals and short-term goals. Because sometimes what happens is you get, let's say I'm called to play on, Luis Miguel's record on Friday. And, they're like, there's 2 cha-cha-chas and a tango and, 2 rumbas or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't spent the time playing a cha-cha-cha or whatever.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's real difficult for me to execute that in an authentic way in the next 72 hours. So that's something that, those are things that have to be happening long term. Right. Understanding of these music styles and the execution of the feel and all these different things that you're developing and working on, so that when those situations come up, you can turn the short-term goal out of that into, well, let me just learn that piece because I know how a cha-cha-cha goes and I know the feel of it. Now let me see what they're doing with that. And right. So there's where, these things sort of interact. I mean, and then the same thing happens in my long-term goal preparation. There's short-term goals inside of that. Like, I want to learn how to play brushes. So what's the short-term goal in that? Well, first, I got to learn how to just be able to play a swing beat.
Yes.
Feels good. Yeah. And is in command enough to, actually control a band with these 2 little wire brush things. Right. So there's my short-term goal inside of the long-term goal of learning to play brushes. Right. And so there's always a balance back and forth of that. And, one of the things that I do, I have it right here. I have this little book. It says music on the front.
Yeah, cool.
And it's a little manuscript book, and all my stuff that I'm working on, like I'll show you, like some of the things I have written in the front. I have like all these sayings written in the front of the pages. Like it says the 4 T's. This is from Adam Nussbaum. The 4 T's: time, taste, touch, and technique.
Wow.
You know, and then the next one it says you have to earn the right to stay in my mix. Like, you know,
That's
like
great.
in the studio where guys would go, yeah, the guitar's rushing, take him out of my ears.
Yes,
you know?
right.
I have all these different sayings. There's lots of things. Here's one that's great. You know, don't confuse experience with mastery.
True.
That's a Tony Williams saying. You know,
okay.
because a lot of guys go, I've been playing for 30 years. So you go, well, obviously you must be amazing then.
Right.
And you could have been playing horribly for 30 years.
That's right.
So anyway, and then inside of that is all of my different lessons that I'm working on. And I have everything from artist analyzations in here, where I go through different artists, like Papa Joe Jones artist analyzation. I got, you know, he has great hi-hat work. He was one of the first hi-hat inventors, taking it from the low boy to the hi-hat. You know, great showmanship was also a part of what he was doing. He created the swing beat on the hi-hat, more than probably one of the first people to do that.
Wow.
Take it from the ride cymbal.
Yes.
And it just goes on and on and on, where I'm learning about other players. And then, I mean, it has even something like here, you can see like circles drawn there to learn brush stuff, right?
And wow.
It's just stuff that I'm working on. And I can give you the date. Everything is organized.
Wow.
I can give you the date. Like, I'll just look something up here. June of 2012. I'm working on this warm-up exercise that is a molar technique with the hands, right? The 3 strokes of a molar technique with the hands in triplets, but double stroke rolls on the pedals.
Wow.
And I got the tempo ranges. So, and this whole book is just full of all this stuff. So this is what I do, and I spend about an hour a day. Steve spends a lot longer, Smith, by the way, which is disappointing for me.
Right.
But I spend about an hour a day, and normally what I do is I do 15 minutes of just playing. I sit down for 15 minutes. I just play, either with music or solo or something, and kind of just get out of me the desire to play the drums. Because I find it hard for me to go right into some focused learning thing.
Sure.
You know, right from, I want to play and practice now, and then I go right into this thing. It's like, let me play, get it out of my system. Because a lot of times what happens, I think, with guys is they sit down and practice, and then they get bored, or they don't work out that energy, and then they leave that, play a drum solo, and then in an hour wake up and go, oh yeah, wait a minute, I was working on the right hand.
That's right.
So I work for 15 minutes just playing, having fun, and then for 30 minutes of that hour, I'm very diligent. It's all written down. I work on it very hard. I don't leave it. I try to stay focused. And then for the last 15 minutes, I play along with music and play again. And sort of walk away from the drums feeling good about playing. Because I hate to sit down and work on something that I suck at, you know, for an hour. It doesn't make you, and then get up and leave, and then it make you want to come back tomorrow and do it again.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, I think that's such a great approach, is to keep it fun. Because drums are supposed to be fun, right? This music thing.
It's supposed to be fun, and you're supposed to want to do it. If you don't want to do it, then go get a regular job.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so you teach as well, Russ. You have an online. Do you? I know you teach online. Do you teach in person as well?
I do. I have some guys. I have percussionpathway.com, which is, you can get to it through my russmiller.com. Just click 4-step percussion pathway, or you can just go right to percussion pathway. And that's an entire online lesson program. That's there's about 600 minutes of HD video, about 200 videos.
Wow.
5-camera HD, and it goes through this 4-step program that I put in place, which is it's broken out into 4 things, which is physical, practical, artistic, and commercial.
Wow.
And so, like in physical, that would be, molar technique or anything involved in playing the instrument.
Sure.
Practical commercial is stuff that you need to be able to execute things that is not style specific, like rushes, double pedal, things like that.
Yeah.
Artistic is understanding the artistry of what we're doing, meaning like playing a lot of different music styles and researching things. And commercial is everything that's not related to playing, and that's, I have R&B lecture series in there. I have, you know, how to develop a career lectures. I even have my personal trainer he developed a whole training system for drummers so they don't tax their wrists and ankles.
Oh, that's fantastic.
They can work out, and he's got, you know, exercise videos in there.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool, you know. I got it finished and got it up and have been so busy that we just haven't given it the due that it needs, you know.
Sure.
But I got to really get on the marketing and do all that. But it's a pretty serious resource of information.
Yeah, it sounds great. Speaking of, you know, the physical aspect of drumming, drummers, we get all kinds of strange kind of injuries. What's that been like for you?
Well, you know, it all boils down to proper technique. Two other things come into play, which is seat height, which really can affect your back, and then positioning of drums and cymbals, which can affect your shoulders a lot.
Yeah.
So I've had to raise my seat a little bit. I've had a little bit of lower back trouble.
Okay.
But recently, I had to lower my ride cymbal down, and my whole, I don't know if you can see it. I'll move the camera a little bit, but if you can see the way that I have this set up.
Yes.
The toms sort of go in this arc.
Yes.
But the 12-inch tom is literally in the center of the bass drum.
Huh. Wow.
Like, it's not over here where it's normally at. Because
Yeah.
I have the ride cymbal kind of where Buddy might have it. You
Okay.
know?
Okay.
Right. But
yeah.
I needed to have the 3 toms, so
Yeah.
it sort of starts in the middle of the bass drum, and that's why I moved to using the DW rack, because it was really hard to make this setup with stands.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, I had to lower the ride cymbal down because I started to have problems with my shoulder.
Yeah.
You know, I went to the doctor and I showed him some videos, and he looks at me and he goes, "How long you been playing?" I'm like, 41 years. You know? And he looks at you and goes, "And you've held your arm up like this for 41 years.
Right.
And you hit something 40,000 times a day. And you're asking me why you're
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay, yeah."
Right. Yep.
So, you know, I brought the ride down a little bit. So, you know, Gad's having problems with his shoulder. He can't play traditional anymore. He's playing mash, tilted his snare. You know, Weckel can't turn to the right anymore to hit the second floor tom. He took that floor tom and had put it under his hi-hat. You know, Vinny brought all his stuff down because he was having shoulder problems. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's just, it is what it is.
That's right. Well, the ergonomics of it all, I've been experimenting with my kit too, and you know, I sometimes have 3 up and 2 down, or I just put 1 up and 2 down. So it's really experimenting, but getting it ergonomically correct for who you are, right?
Yeah, yeah. What's really interesting, to be honest with you, is that the older I've gotten and the more that and everything now in the setup is extremely thought out. I mean, because all these years of playing, you know, this is why this is here, this is why this is here. Yeah. Like, cymbals are on the same plane so that there's not one higher than the other that jumps into the overhead mics.
Right, yes, yeah.
Things like that. But the more that I play, the more that my setup starts to go back to like the 4-piece Buddy Rich kind of.
Right.
And you go, maybe these guys had this worked out right in the beginning and we never.
That's right.
Just so out of it. But, you know, where the ride is, and there's a lot of it was talking to Erskine and him and I discussing approaching the ride cymbal from a downward perspective and not up. It changes the tone. It changes the sounds that you can articulate out of it because of where you're positioned above the cymbal versus below the cymbal and things like that. And the same with the toms, you know, the arc of I play traditional, so the arc of the hands falling in a very natural way. Like, where does the tip of the stick go when I literally just move my arm like this?
Right.
And that's where the drums need to be. Because if I have to reach out like this or reach out up, that's when those things happen, because you're doing it thousands of times.
That's right. You
know? So you got to just maintain your position and have it all be. It's not as visually exciting, but
right.
You know,
Yeah.
If you want to do this long term.
Yeah, it's got to be what works for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Steve Smith and I, just as a side note, we just talked a lot about, his approach on the Journey tour for the past year. And he was like, I am not going to hurt myself. I've worked a long time on positioning and where I'm sitting. Yes. And I mean, he was playing, slamming these arena gigs at Madison Square Garden, and he's playing like this,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
just above the instrument, like stick heights.
Right.
12 inches above the drums and cymbal lower, and he was just back there doing this all night long.
Yeah. Right.
None of this.
That's right. Yeah.
Stuff.
We've come a long way, right?
It was interesting to see it because you're not used to seeing it. You're not used to seeing somebody play so in control in such a big environment.
Yes.
You're used to like somebody really going at it. But
absolutely.
The drums sound better, because you're not hitting them as hard, and one of the things that we said was, on the phone, I go, well, look, man, they invented microphones. Like,
that's right. Let the mics pick it up, right?
Yeah, because when I play in big arenas like that, you start to come to the realization that I can't fill this place with sound. Like in a club, you have that feeling like I'm the drummer. I can fill this place with sound, and I'm gonna, command this. It's like I can't fill this place with sound. I can hit these drums until the sticks break in half, and I'm never going to fill this place with. I have to use the mics.
Right. Yep.
So if I'm going to use the mics, I might as well use the mics and not beat the snot out of this thing.
Exactly. Right. Or your body. Yeah.
Yeah, just turn it up.
So in closing then, Russ, before we have you play, can I ask, for people who are watching this in the future sometime, could be 5, 10, 20 years from now, what advice would you have for musicians coming up, maybe the next generation of musicians?
Well, I think there's two things. First, you have to respect what came before you. And that means, knowing what came before you, knowing why they did what they did, and why what you're doing right now exists because of developing it. So that means you should always know the history about what's going on.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is start with, I'll give you an example. Like, let's say you want to learn how to play jazz. I mean, you don't want to start learning jazz by listening to Snarky Puppy.
Right.
Right. That's not jazz music. So, you might call it jazz now, but you need to go back and figure out what is that? What is the history of what came before you, and how did these Snarky Puppy end up doing this or whatever? That's the first thing, is knowing what came before you. Yeah. And the second thing is that, honesty about what you're doing is probably the biggest and most important aspect of what you're doing as an artist. In every medium, too, like from visual arts to movies to everything. I mean, I think everybody, can go to the theater and immediately get that, they made a Hollywood movie with a Hollywood ending. And not that it's not entertaining, it's entertaining. Right. Yeah. But no one's, you remember the movies the most that weren't those things, that that were like a unique approach, a vision, something that look at like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or something where you go, where did they come up with this thing?
Absolutely, right.
It's unbelievable, or Wizard of Oz, or something like that, or later movies that that were just like would just knock you out, like Star Wars, or But I don't know. It's I think the honesty of what you're doing, and what that means is be honest with yourself. Like, why are you doing this? Are you doing this to play because you just need to play and you want to play the drums? Are you doing it because you think there might be some money in it? Do you think you want some acceptance out of it, or views on YouTube? I don't know. You got to ask yourself, like, why are you doing it? Yeah. Because the reality is, I think all the best players would be doing it in their basement by themselves for free.
That's right.
And I mean, for me, I would just be playing. Yes, I have houses and cars and my wife, my child, and private schools. And you got all these things I got to pay for. But the issue is, like, it's everything that I have is a byproduct of me just wanting to play the drums. Right. And, that's what I tell guys all the time. I'm like, don't look at the fancy car or the platinum record on the wall. Like, it's all byproducts of just wanting to play the drums.
Yeah.
And if any of those become the focus at any point, you're going to get off kilter.
That's right.
And you're going to start heading downwards again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those two things for me, I think, are the key.
The history and honesty, and it also sounds like just being a good person and creating good relationships and having this network, amazing network of musicians that you've created and the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to be around a jerk. That's
Right.
for, you know.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, too, is like, what makes you the jerk? I mean, do you think that you have something that somebody else doesn't? Because there's always somebody better than you.
Right. Right.
You know, and I don't know. I you know, I certainly have met enough of those guys. I've seen them come and go. You know, I've seen artists that were totally, you know, just a nightmare to be around and work with. And as long as they were selling records and making big money, everybody put up with it. But as soon as they didn't, they were like,
right. Right. Yeah.
And you know, I don't know. It's not wise. I mean, reality is this whole thing is based on great musicians want to be with great musicians.
That's right.
That's it. That's the whole thing. Like, everybody goes, how do you make it? How do you do this? It's like, there's no story to tell because you're never going to meet the same people at the same time that I did. So, you know, you're coming to LA in 2017. I came in 1995. Right. You know, there was 175 studios here when I came. There's like 17 now.
Wow.
So
huge difference. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different market. I can't tell you what to do exactly. Right. But what I can tell you is great musicians want to be around and play with great musicians. So the better you are, the more cats are going to, I want to play with that guy.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it's just simple as that. Like, and really it boils down to if every gig you go on turns into more gigs.
Right.
That's it.
Sure. Yeah.
And if you go to a gig and it doesn't turn into any more gigs, then you failed.
Right. Right.
Everybody on that gig should be now calling you, from the people in the band to the leader to people in the audience. I mean, everybody should be calling you from that point forward. That's how hard you got to knock it out of the park. And if you do that, it's going to build and build and build and build and build. That's it. And I've done it as an exercise before. I've traced like a Grammy Award back down. I met this guy who got me this, who got me this, who did this. And I traced like one of the Grammy Awards back down to a gig at Magic Mountain.
Wow.
Playing on the jazz gig at Magic Mountain for like $65.
That's unbelievable. Wow.
Yeah, but when you trace it out, you go, well, that bass player was on there, and he recommended me to this guy, and this guy got me this thing, and I met that engineer who got me this, and then blah 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 blah, and you end up here, and you know, for me that was a huge lesson where you go, wow, that really shows you like just do the best you can, give more than what's expected all the time, every time, and just go and play at your highest level.
Absolutely.
And because you just never know what is going to come out of all these things. It might seem ridiculous at the time. You might be like, dude, I'm at the Cohen Bar Mitzvah on Friday night. And
right.
Real quiet, and it sucks. And, you know, but it's just like, you don't know. Like that sax player on the gig might end up in the section for, you know, Phil Collins.
That's
you know,
right. That's right. Exactly.
I have no idea what's going to happen. So just do your best and, you know, try to make something out of it.
Well, this has been great, Russ. Definitely inspiring for me. Thank you so much. I'm going to go practice after talking with you. Thank you so much for your generosity and your time on Musicians on the Record. Would you be so kind to maybe play us out?
Yeah. Let me do something.
awesome. Wow. That's amazing. That was fantastic. Thank you, Russ. I really appreciate
Classic
it.
Dizzy Gillespie song called Salt Peanuts. Remember that?
I do not, but that's fantastic. Another learning curve for me.
Check it out.